Welcome to the third annual Watchin It coverage of the 96th Academy Awards. Not the third time we're doing the 96 Academy Awards.
Well, we are technically doing it 2 times.
We are doing it 2 times, but just third annual Watchin It coverage of the Academy Awards, of which this is the 96th one. I'm your host, Donnell, and with me, as always, is the illustrious Robert Bell.
It's great to be here, Donnell.
Yes. These nominees this year. I will say this. This year, I had the least amount of frustration watching these movies.
It was pretty easy. There were a lot of them on streaming.
Yes. Oh,
Not
I mean
all of
also,
them, though.
I also mean in my mental capacity to enjoy said movies.
Yeah, there was no Mank.
There was no Mank. There was no lollipop pizza. So it was pleasant. One thing that wasn't though is and this is the first time apparently if you release a movie in 2023, even if it's just in a small capacity and it's not even in theaters, you can get in because we had I think like 3 movies that either we had to see in theaters or we had to find other methods because these movies haven't even fully come out yet. And I was just like, but they're for 2023. Why are they in this Academy Awards?
And I think that's terrible.
Yeah,
because it makes it less accessible for people. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a strategy there that says let's get it in under the wire and then still have it at the theaters especially if it's something you think really strongly is going to win Best Picture or something. And then that's going to drive ticket sales.
True. That is a that is a good method because if the Best Picture is in theaters when it wins, it's like, oh, suddenly people who hadn't seen it, I got to go check that out.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is you do a re-release.
Honestly, they should have been doing re-release for these movies.
But the rules have changed. This may not be a problem next year.
Okay.
So let's talk about the current rules. There's a lot of them.
There's a
whole lot of rules.
I'm not surprised.
But the one that we care about is the timing.
Yes.
The release timing, right? So in 2023, the rule is that you had to release your movie in only one of 6 media markets. And that was Los Angeles County, New York City, the Bay Area, Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta, which is not much.
Yeah.
And you only had to release it for 7 days with 3 showings a day. As long as that happened in 2023.
So 1 week.
Yep.
Of 3 showings a day, and your movie can be nominated.
In one of those cities.
So you release a movie in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
For 1 week. Nowhere else. So no one else could see it, but you can still win Best Picture.
You can still be nominated for Best Picture for that year.
Wow. Okay, that is weird.
Yes, they have changed the rules.
Okay.
Not perfect in my opinion, but better, right?
Okay.
Now you will have to release it in 10 of 50 U.S. markets. I'm not going to go through the list because it'll take forever. Now that initial release has to be 7 days, but now it can be consecutive or non-consecutive.
Okay.
So there's a little rules change there. So maybe you're messing with the weekends or Mondays or Fridays. You don't want to run it there. However, you have to have a 45-day release that concludes before January 24th of the following year. So in 2024, you release your movie. You've got to have a 45-day run of that movie in at least 10 markets before it gets done. I think that's kind of strict for some of the more specialized movies that I think that's going to cut out some really high-quality independent films that can't get big general releases, that are going to get a month and a half or 2 months at the theater, at 10 theaters across the country.
I feel like there has to be some sort of middle ground because I agree with you. We might get cut out some of those, but I also that's why in the older rule of only 7 days in one of the markets, that's how these movies get in. But also I will say there's been years where it's like, here's the Oscars Best Picture, and they'll list the 10, and I'll be like, I've never even heard of 3 of these movies.
There were like 4 on this list that I had never heard
so
of.
my thing is I feel like there has to be a middle ground where we can get these more niche things in, but we can't just have it be where it's just like you said, you skated under the radar at the last minute. You're like, oh, well, I was in Atlanta for 7 days, and it's like, cool. No one else knew. So
there's one movie which I'm not going to name right now that we did go see at the theater.
Yes,
but there were only in the Seattle area. There were only 3 theaters that were showing it.
Or 3 theaters showing it.
And they were only showing it like once a day.
Twice at the movie theater we went to.
Yeah, that's true.
But the other ones were all once a day.
And it is just not the kind of movie that was going to get your IMAX, big theater release. It just...
I mean, when we went and saw it, I mean, part of this was, me and Robert made a little bit of a date night. Went out on Valentine's Day.
This is not a Valentine's Day movie. Oddly enough, there were 5 other people in the theater.
That's what I was about to say, is there was only 5 people in the theater, but
7
I feel
including
like
us.
I feel like even on not Valentine's Day, I don't see that theater with more than probably 7, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the kind of movie where it's like everybody's flocking to it.
Yeah.
So maybe they should in some ways.
But anyway, new rules. If it has to be done by January 24th, for its initial run.
That gives more...
Yeah, it's more likely that when you get towards March, it's going to be out on streaming or somewhere for you to get a hold of it.
Yeah,
and find people like us can make commentary about it more easily.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to go to the theater anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, Donnell, unless it's a big budget.
Yeah.
Like Dune or Marvel movie or something like that. I just want to sit at home and just chill out. I can't sit for 3.5 hours in a theater anymore. I'm too old for that.
Nope.
I got to use the bathroom. If you're not giving me an intermission, you're not getting my money.
I do think that. I mean, 2 of the movies on this list were over 3 hours or more, and I really feel like we need to start. Like I said, just put a damn intermission. Like, if you're gonna have them in theaters, put a damn intermission. The people who went and did the Barbieheimer watching, where they would go watch Barbie.
Break there,
Still, I'm like, that's a vent. Okay, that's a vent. Yeah. I'm not doing that.
All right, we're gonna break these up into 2 parts because we don't want this episode to be longer than any of these Oscar movies. So when we finish here, be sure to join us next week for the final 5. Starting in alphabetical order. Coming to you from producers Ben LeClaire, Nikos Karamingios, apologies if I got that pronunciation incorrectly, Cord Jefferson, and Jermaine Johnson. American Fiction. A novelist who's fed up with the establishment profiting from black entertainment uses a pen name to write a book that propels him into the heart of hypocrisy and madness he claims to disdain. I don't know if that's an apt description of the movie, but I wish it was.
Yeah.
Because I wish this movie had leaned more into that.
Yeah.
That was such a very small part of this movie. It was more about him and his family and
them going through drastic changes in their life.
Yeah, a lot of them very quick.
A lot of them very quick, all at the same time, and dealing with the loss of someone, dealing with dementia, dealing with family or a mother not accepting her homosexual son.
Yeah.
Dealing with just so much.
All that being said,
yeah.
I thought this was a delightful movie.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was interesting. I think for me, the ending didn't land.
Yeah. I kind of see where they were going.
I don't think it was supposed to land. I think that was the message. The ending wasn't supposed to land. It was supposed to be problematic. So maybe there's some art there, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, definitely. And a great performance by Jeffrey Wright,
Absolutely,
who is someone who, I've known of Jeffrey Wright for a long time, but I am more appreciative of him now. The more I see him, the more I'm like, you know what? This guy got some chops. This guy got some skills.
It was the movie about the robots, the show about the robots. What was it called? Westworld was not a one-trick pony for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he came out of that and was like, I can still hit the ball out of the park.
Yep. I can do serious dramatic. I can do comedy. I can do he's just I've just really grown to appreciate him in the movies. But this was one. When I was going through these, like I already said, I actually enjoyed most of these a lot more than I thought I would, or just more than I thought I would. But this was one that when I first saw it, I went into it going, yeah.
The question is, does it really deserve to be on the Best Picture list? Because for me, I don't know. I don't know if this really does anything special enough to be on the Best Picture list. But there were so few good
That's
movies
what I was about to say.
In 2023. And I talk a little bit more about that on our 2023 wrap-up episode.
Yep.
That where were you going to get 10 movies?
That's where I was about to say, when you say, does it deserve? I'm like, I don't know, but I also can't think of what I would replace it with.
Absolutely.
So, I'm not going to knock it for that. It's just a fun movie.
Yeah,
and
I think everyone should watch it. It's fantastic.
Yep. Next, for your consideration, from Marie-Ange Luciani and David Dion, Anatomy of a Fall. A woman is suspected of murder after her husband's death, and their visually challenged son faces a moral dilemma as the main witness. So how do you feel about this one, Robert?
It was a really good movie.
Yes.
Another one that I'm not sure really is a Best Picture contender.
Okay.
It obviously amazingly well acted.
Yes.
Across the board.
And her name will come up twice, but I will say never had heard of her before this, but Sandra Hüller.
Yeah. Nominated for Best Actress for this.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's... Best Actor, I think we've got one clear choice, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Best Actress, stacked.
Yes.
Lots of them there. I would not be upset if she won Best Actress for this.
Yes.
She just did such a good job. So much time like slipping between emotions, and really by the end of it's a whodunit kind of thing. And by the end of it, you don't know.
No. Yeah.
You do not know.
That I was gonna say is you sit there and you just don't. You're like, did she get away with it? There
are things in this movie I think they could have explained better. Like, I didn't understand why there was so much media attention on it. I'm like, were these famous people? Like, why was it? It's a foreign film. It's mostly in English but about 30% French.
Yep.
You know, kind of interweaves between that. But yeah, just by the way, Sandra Hüller, like how many languages does this lady know? Because she's in another foreign film that we'll talk about later, and I'm just like, geez, she must know all of them. Like these Europeans and all the languages they know.
It is crazy. Yeah, but I think just well acted by not just her, but also, and I should have his name. I lost it already. But I was going to say, honestly, I felt that her son was very well acted.
Everybody was well
everyone,
acted.
Yes.
Like even the prosecutor was, I thought, well acted. And, like he really pulled off like jerk like during this. But yeah, fine film. I don't know if it's one I would say like, oh, just go watch it. It's fun. You need to, it's heavy.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's not fun.
Yeah.
I'll say it's a good watch.
Yeah.
I'll say if you like a good mystery or if you just want to see some very well acted characters, definitely go out and see it.
2 hours and 30 minutes. I think they could have tightened that up a bit.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's actually one thing I was going to say before we dove into this. Is this like this year they were just aiming for long movies. They were just like, how long can we go? And I'm scared because it seems to be ramping up. I'm scared for next year that there might be a 4-hour movie. I'm just like, don't do it, please don't.
For your consideration, from producers David Hyman, Margot Robbie, Tom Ackerley, and Robbie Brenner, Barbie. Barbie and Ken are having the time of their lives in the colorful and seemingly perfect world of Barbie Land. However, when they get a chance to go to the real world, they soon discover the joys and perils of living among humans. I hated this movie. It's terrible.
But, and here's my but. The one thing I will say, and the one thing ever since, even before I watched it, once it was announced as a Best Picture, the one thing it got me thinking about, and, maybe, it may not win, or hopefully it doesn't win, but my thing is Barbie does not fit the standard mode of a Best Picture nominee for the Oscars. And I have said for a while, I've jokingly said, oh, there's a formula for making a Best Picture a movie. And Barbie does not fit that formula. And honestly, what that gives me, even though I did not like Barbie, what it gives me hope for is that maybe we can get some more variety in the Best Pictures. Because I feel like Best Pictures are very formulatic. I mean, part of it, we didn't touch on this, but we read some of the other rules. Some of that is almost forced by rules. But also, I still feel like it's like, you can make the best action movie that with well acted, everything, you don't stand a chance of getting a Best Picture. Same with, you might get like I said, American Fiction and a few other ones are kind of, I'd say, light comedies. So you might like it, but you can't do like a real or a sci-fi or a thriller. Like I'm just like, there's just so much where it's just like, no, everything else is carved out. So
it's really hard to get like a horror movie on there,
or
an animated film for God's sake. I think there are plenty of a couple of slots here that could have been filtered out and given us Beyond the Spider-Verse Part 2. Because Beyond the Part 1 was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Part 2 really stepped it up a notch and did something with just animation in general.
Yeah.
Put it in the Best Picture slot. Don't regulate it to just being in the animation slot.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just did not like Barbie, but it does give me a slight bit of hope that maybe we can start getting some wiggle room, and maybe we can start seeing some other movie types make it.
I mean, there's no way it wasn't going to get nominated, especially with another movie getting nominated, because I mean, this had the marketing budget that went past the Manhattan Project. Like, it was such a force for the summer of 2023. It is absolutely very stylized, well acted.
Yes.
For a musical, they didn't have a hit song to me. The music was not that great for a musical, and I don't think the messaging was that great.
No.
It was a women empowerment thing. And I mean, it sounds like bad for me to say, but like at the end, the women just took over instead of finding an equilibrium with the Kens. The Kens just got put back in their place because they're just dumb guys. And, they just tricked them, you know? And I'm just like, I don't know if this is really the best message, especially with a much better women empowerment movie on this list that we'll talk about in the second episode. But yeah, it just, I'm a 41-year-old man, Donnell. This movie was clearly not for me.
This movie was not for us, but even outside of that, like I said, I agree with you with some of it where it's just like, I see what it was striving for. I don't know if it hit it. And because of that, I don't think Best Picture worthy. But we've said that about other movies already, so that's not a big shock.
I think it would have risen for me to a Best Picture if The Real World had been more real. Because even The Real World was kind of like playful and fanciful.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they could have gotten real dark with it when they went to The Real World.
Yeah,
and they did not.
Yeah.
And if they did, I'd be like, vote for that. If they had really like shown The Real World the way that it is.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
For your consideration, from producer Mark Johnson, The Holdovers. A cranky history teacher at a remote prep school is forced to remain on campus over the holidays with a troubled student who has no place to go and a grieving cook. I mean, that's the movie.
Yeah.
This is one where the synopsis, I'm like, nope, that is the movie.
The entirety of my notes for this movie, just a fine movie. This is just a fine movie.
Yep.
I don't know what it's doing here, but it's great.
Yep.
It's just a fine movie.
This is another one that I went into feeling pretty good about, left feeling pretty good about. A couple things that for me is one, this has nothing to do with anything. I just thought was interesting detail is in this movie, it stars an actor who I've very much enjoyed a lot of, Paul Giamatti.
Yep.
And the guy he's playing has a lazy eye. They have not said, Paul does not have a lazy eye, and they have not, that no one knows. They still don't, like the production crew won't tell how they were able to get that.
Maybe
like,
he's
do
just
it in
that
movie.
good of an actor.
That part of me is like, did he just train it? But like,
they had to use a contact,
like
or something.
But they won't say what. They're just like, maybe it was CGI, maybe it was, like they just won't. They're like, but so that's the one thing. And then also, I want to
should note that Paul Giamatti got nominated for Best Actor for this role.
Yes, he did,
and he did a fantastic job.
Yes, he did. Someone else who I think did a very fantastic job is Divine Joy Randolph.
Yep.
She plays the grieving cook. She is only 34.
Wow.
Yeah. I looked her up and I was like, she is so convincing. And some people are like, oh, you believe she was someone older. That could be seen as a negative thing. But because she's an actress and that's what she was tasked to do, I fully bought in. Like, there was no part of me that thought, oh, yeah, like, she seemed like, she's been around. See, I mean, in the movie, she plays someone with a son who was in college. So she's much older than her actual age. And that casting was perfect because I would have never guessed.
She got nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Yep.
For this. But yeah,
just as you already said, just a fine movie.
Yep. Excellent Sunday afternoon watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll do it on Christmas time.
For your consideration, from producers Dan Fredkin, Bradley Thomas, Martin Scorsese, and Daniel Lupi, Killers of the Flower Moon. When oil is discovered in 1920s Oklahoma under Osage Nation land, the Osage people are murdered one by one until the FBI steps in to unravel the mystery.
Yeah.
Yep. The FBI shows up a little late.
Yeah.
3 hours
You're
in.
about to say, yeah, they saw up quite a bit late.
This was the movie that never ended.
Yes.
I swear the movie got longer the longer I watched it. Every time that I paused it to go get a glass of water or something, I feel like another hour was added.
When you weren't
way
looking.
too long to tell
Way
this story.
too long. I just want to say this. I feel like, don't get me wrong, Martin Scorsese has made some amazing movies.
Yeah.
He is a great director. He stuff. But I feel like in his later years, he is just gunning for, how long can I make this movie?
I think he's
'Cause
just
feel
like if I stop once production ends, I die, and I'm just going to keep making the movie forever.
Because, yeah, I feel like, what was the last movie he made with Robert De Niro? Because, of course, Robert De Niro. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I remember that one was like 3 hours and like 15 minutes or something. This one was at 3:24.
Yeah.
I'm like, next year, like I said,
This one was with Robert De Niro, too.
yeah, because it's Martin Scorsese, of course.
Yeah.
But no, I just feel like next year it's going to be like 3:45, and so the 2026 Oscars, if we're coming those, that's where the 4-hour movie is going to be. Martin Scorsese is going to put out some movie, and it's going to be 4 hours. I'll be like, damn you, man, just stop.
There is somebody big that's making some movie that's over 4 hours long this year, and I'm not looking forward to it at all.
I mean, as long as it's not an Oscar movie, we're not going to be forced to watch it.
This was a really good movie.
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio, I think it's a crime that he was left off the Best Actor list. I thought he did a fantastic job in this. Robert De Niro got a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
Deserved.
Very well deserved.
This movie, for me, because of its length and then also its genre, which was a Western.
Yep.
The length and then Western, for me, I came into this movie with very low hopes. I will say I left with higher hopes, but the length hurt it a lot for me. I felt like there was parts where it was really slow, and there's also parts where I'm just like, is this needed? And
spent too much time going back and forth between things.
Yes.
And then there were a bunch of things they never explained to me. They had 3.5 hours. You couldn't tell me like why some of the tribes members were allowed to control their money and some weren't.
Yeah.
They just kind of left that. They just said, "Oh, you're incompetent." Okay, why?
Yeah.
Give me some data here.
There was just there was no explanation on some things, and then there was too much explanation or too much time spent on other things, and I'm just like,
Again, I'm with you. Fantastic story overall. Just took way too long to tell
just
it.
Trim some of the fat. Just
An
trim
hour.
some of the fat.
You could have taken a solid hour off this. Would have been perfectly fine.
Yes. For your consideration, the next episode of Watchin' It, folks.
Yeah, we're breaking this up into 2 parts.
Yes, we're going to be doing a second episode on the Oscars. We just thought so we can not feel rushed and we can just kind of cover each movie to the extent we want. We're going to just break this up into 2. So next week, we will be jumping into the back 5 of these movies. There's some treats in the back 5.
There's some treats in the back 5. Yes, there are.
There's some treats in the back 5 for
some
sure.
very sour treats, but treats nonetheless.
Yes. I guess treat might not be the word I would want to use.
It's going to get dark. It's going to get dark, but it's beautiful darkness. Absolutely.
So, be on the lookout for that in a week. Robert?
As always, you can find us on our website, watchinitpod.com. There you can find links to our social media and to email us, watchinitpodcast@gmail.com. Donnell, what else should they do?
Well, folks, we've been covering a lot of interesting stuff the last couple of weeks. We're wrapping up the Oscars, but guess what's coming back, folks? Second half of Invincible.
Yeah.
And I am ready. I haven't read the official comic, but I've just been seeing like different things talking about the Invincible storyline. There is so we're only in season 2. We are barely scratching the surface of this comic, and I really hope that we get a lot more seasons because there is so much there to cover. Some of the characters that have been like just briefly glanced upon so far, like if you remember Beastmaster, the guy who could beat almost anybody, like he becomes such a big character later on, even though we've only just briefly seen him, that I'm just like, I'm ready. So yeah, folks, get ready for that because I'm excited. I think Robert's excited. And then as always, give us any ratings, reviews, 5 stars. Thanks so much for listening. But